Ever wondered why some graduates stay jobless despite job qualifications? Or if HR managers have a preferred candidate before the job is even advertised? Today, we sit down with an experienced human resources manager that is going to help us uncover the truth about the hiring process, some of the common mistakes that job applicants make, the misconceptions that surround this particular field, and what happens behind the scenes. But first, let's hear what the people have to say. We hit the streets to find out what people think human resource managers do, what they think they do, versus what they really do.
Basically, the human resource management, they represent the company. They work for the interest of the company. What is they just represent the company, train people, employ people, and all that.
Ndiye amazi wa company that kuri vacancy. Sometimes kumanga to be manager as a report for HR. HR ndiye amazi system ya company yonse. Ndiye manga sometimes. Ndiye situation amenizi hapo. Yeah.
Managers. Well, the common one is they are responsible for hiring and firing employees. Technically, they take care of employees in an organization. Yeah.
Mostly, it's an inside job. Like, for instance, they have someone they need to elevate to that position that you're applying for. So they would advertise for the sake of advertising. But the moment there's someone within who applies for that job, for that role, they become the first choice for that position.
Those human resource managers, what they do is they first employ their relatives instead of those people who apply for a job. And that is unfair, so to say, to just prove my observation, so to say. Yes. So those people must follow the channel. Those people, they should follow the channel in the sense that they should employ people according to their experience and the paper that they have. Now, instead they just employ their relatives, and those people, they advertise they advertise that job opportunity, while they have already employed their relatives. They should follow the channel accordingly to employ a person according to his or her experience and the qualification, so to say.
I have gotten feedback from some, not all of them, from some. I would say 85% of HR people in most organizations don't even give feedback, especially those ones they say, no, you can email your CV to blah, 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 blah. You never get feedback. So it would really be nice if, whether it's positive or negative, the fact is they should give feedback. That's what I think. So they should improve on that. Like, I mean, you've been applying for this job, so you know that somehow, somewhere along the way, they'll call you for an interview. You must do market research about that job, especially for school leavers, yeah, university leavers. You just can't go into an organization and say, first year, those people that do part-time jobs, and then they say, oh, there's an opportunity this side, what's your salary expectation? First year, second year, in the Opundam at 10,000. No, guys, let's be realistic. So I would advise people to do their market research on the types of jobs that they apply for. They are not the first ones. It's not the first HR person. It's not the first procurement officer. It's not the first accountant. So go and ask people to say, oh, when you started, how much were you getting paid? And given the economy, this is no longer our parents' days where they would get paid 2,500 and it was enough. You see what I mean? Yeah, so just do market research and find out. So when they say, what is your salary expectation? at least they should know that this person actually. Fun fact, there was an interview I attended. I got that job as an intern at the time. They asked me, what's your salary expectation? And I said, between a 2.5 and a 3.5. And then the people on the panel, one of the women laughed. Like I didn't understand why she laughed, but when I was called back to say, come and get your offer later, I understood. Because the figure I gave them was the exact figure that was on the offer letter. And she asked, what criteria did you use to come up with that salary expectation? And I told her I did my market research. Most interns these days, that's what they're getting paid in these companies in town. So yeah, just do market research.
Japan.
My name is Lameck Nyirenda. I am a human resources practitioner by profession. I have been practicing human resource for more than 8 years now. My experience with human resources management spans over various sectors, which include FMCG, construction, as well as general hospitality.
I am very curious to know, how was your experience like when you made a decision to go into the human resources world? When you chose it as a career, what was the reaction from friends, family members?
Interestingly enough, you'd find that, at that point when I decided to pursue human resources management, the feedback that I got from a number of people was quite negative. We received information such as, when you get feedback from your friends, colleagues, and people in other professions were saying things like, there are no jobs in HR. Or this program that you're doing, you're going to end up becoming a secretary. Or you think people will leave their jobs for you to go and work. So there was a lot of negative feedback, but it took only one individual to convince me to pursue human resources management. And honestly speaking, if I were to give you that reason, it's funny, but it's a profession that I think eventually worked out for me. It's grown me professionally, and it's something that I love doing.
Okay. Would you like to tell us what were you told?
Well, despite the negative feedback that I got from so many people, I think for me, when I was starting off, my biggest motivator was these jobs, people should not lie to you. It's very easy to get a job, and HRs get paid a lot of money. So for me, that moved me immediately. Being young and clearly looking for a profession, I was not well vested in what I was going to do. And I did not generally receive career guidance.
Okay.
So for me, it was a career that I picked up as a result of advice. And that one piece of advice brought me to where I am today.
That there's a lot of money?
That there's a lot of money, of course. And jobs are actually very easy, contrary to what everyone else was saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a wise decision. So what would you tell people that actually think that becoming a human resources manager, you have to be an elderly person?
No, what people need to understand is for you to become an old person in HR, it means you've built up experience. Yeah. We all start from somewhere. And eventually, you don't just become a human resources manager, but you build experience over the years, and then eventually you become a human resources manager. So you'd find that you'd start off as an assistant at a very young age. Then from an assistant, you grow, you become a human resources officer, you become a human resources manager, you go as far as director, and eventually you become a human resources business partner. I think that's the ultimate goal for everyone, become a human resources business partner. Yes. So this is a profession that I think, or I feel everyone, or anyone should take up. It's not a profession for the old and retired. No. It's a profession that once you have the energy, you should really consider. It's an amazing profession. So I really urge people, regardless of the age, please take up HR. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Zambia is full of unexplored marvels, talented people, game-changing entrepreneurs, and breathtaking places that most people don't even know about. And that's where you come in. Do you know someone doing something incredible? Or a sport that deserves to be recognized? We want to hear from you.
All right, thank you. There are so many misconceptions that surround this particular profession and field, with one of them being that the human resources department,
Yes.
they advertise for jobs. Well, they've already picked their preferred candidate. What's your take on that?
Well, that is misinformation, and it's something that within our circles we are very much aware of. It's generally misinformation based off, I think, a few experiences for individuals. I think it would be biased to say that it's a general practice across the human resource profession. No.
Yeah.
What people need to understand is human resources exists to facilitate recruitment for an organization. So one thing that is very interesting and that a lot of people don't know is that human resources facilitates recruitment for a department. We don't necessarily pick candidates. I'll give you an example of, say, in productions. If the productions department is looking for, say, quality personnel, what HR does is, our role in that recruitment process is that we will put out an advert. When we put out an advert, with the help of the department, we are going to shortlist. Once we shortlist, the shortlisted candidates are then given back to the department, who then further reduce that number to a sizable number of candidates that we can call for interviews. Then if you look at the way the interview is conducted, you'd find that that panel does not only consist of human resource, it will also consist of department personnel from that productions department. Then together, a consensus is reached on who appears to be the best candidate. And then that is how you conduct recruitment. So it is not an activity that is only isolated to human resources. No, there's a huge role that the recruiting department plays. So I hope today we've debunked that. That's misinformation.
Yes.
That's a biased view of how people look at human resources. But we're here to facilitate recruitment and ensure that an organization at any given point in time has the right number of people.
Okay.
Yes.
So to get it clear, you are saying it's a decision that other departments make, and then they approach you to say we're looking for a particular candidate in this department, and then you go out there and create the advert now.
Okay, so the way recruitment is conducted is, if there's a gap in a particular department and there is need for additional personnel, the human resources department will work with that department. First of all, would be to design a job advert based on the job description of their preferred candidate.
Yeah.
So once this has been collectively done, it is now the role of the human resources department to tailor a job advert in order to attract suitable candidates for that position. Then collectively, interviews are going to be held. And then again, collectively, a preferred candidate will be selected.
Okay.
Yes.
So what are some of the mistakes that job seekers make?
Well, from my experience, there's quite a number of mistakes. These will be mistakes on the quality of the CV, lack of preparation for the interview when they come, And then I think generally it would be, if you're looking for a job, you must ensure that even as you're applying for the job, you at least qualify. It is not every job that you should apply for. Focus your energies, on job adverts where you feel at least you have the 60% chance of even being called for interviews. It is not every job that you should apply for. Focus your energies in the right direction. It improves the chances of recruitment. Yes.
Okay. So recently I was going through Facebook and I came across one post. There was this lady that was complaining that she had gone to attend interviews at a particular institution, and then it's been 2 weeks plus. She hasn't gotten any response on whether the institution picked a candidate or not, and she said that drained her emotionally. What's your take on this?
Well, this is a practice that I think is very rampant across. I'll speak for Zambia.
Yeah.
I'm not well informed with the practices in other countries. It's something that we as human resources practitioners, we need to work on. we need to start to provide feedback for candidates that are not successful. Now, feedback can be given within the interview as the interview is closing, or it can be given after the interview. But I very much agree with the fact that, lack of communication creates a certain level of anxiety or depression, because when you are called for interviews, automatically, psychologically, your mind has given you that perception that you might get the job. Whether you are the best candidate or not, you automatically have been geared to say, I'm getting this job, number 7. And then for you to be left in suspense, I think is not a good thing. It is something that I'm going to employ human resources practitioners. Let's take up the initiative of communicating. It could be within the interview, at the end of the interview. Please just inform the candidate. It's as easy as saying, we normally communicate to the successful candidate within 5 working days. Should you not hear from us, consider your application unsuccessful. That way, if the individual does not hear from the company within a period of 5 days, automatically they know that I was not successful. And then they move on. Or it could be via email. Send an email to say, thank you very much for your participation. We settled for a candidate that we feel is best suited for us. Just the smallest amount of communication. It's something that us as HRs should pick up. Yes.
Would you say that's one thing you wish the human resources profession going to improve on?
Yes, it's an area that we can improve on. Of course, we are not perfect, but I think communication is something that we really need to work on. That's after the interviews. It's something that every practitioner should pick up. Yes, it should become more or less professional etiquette.
Going back to the job application process, we have seen many a times people wonder on whether they need to, when it comes to references, who should we put as our references?
Okay, so having reviewed so many CVs, I find some very interesting references. But what it is references generally refers to your professional references, people that you have worked with that can speak well for your work experience. So this would include your supervisor, your immediate supervisor, someone that you worked with. It could include the general manager or the managing director of that entity. But one thing that you must bear in mind is any individual or any reference that you put on your CV, you should communicate, take the initiative to communicate with them and inform them to say, I am going to place your contact details as a point of reference. Should you be called or should someone try to inquire, please speak well for me. And then these are people that you've worked with. Most of the common mistakes that you'd find on a lot of CVs is you've got religious references, personal friends, even parents. To a certain degree, it is acceptable, but you are then looking at someone who is a fresh graduate, because of course a graduate has got no professional references. But for graduates, I would advise that you indicate your lecturer. Yes. Your lecturer, I think, is someone that would be able to speak highly of you based off your academic performance. Then I think you can equally include a religious reference. I think as far as speaking on your morality, your conduct, your ethics, personal ethics, I think they would be in a better position to help, seeing that you're a graduate. But for people that have at least anything more than a year's experience, please strictly keep it professional. Yes.
So it's wrong for me to actually put my close friend, maybe because I'm not in good books with my bosses.
Well, one thing you must understand is us as HRs, we take the initiative these days. We are not going to, if we see that you've put your colleague there, we'll ask what title your colleague has. And instead, we'll try by all means to go and get information as to who is the HR or who is the managing director and communicate with them and get a better view of your professional experience. So, yes, it's something that a lot of people are doing, especially if you left a place in bad books. You'd want someone that would speak well for you. But we'll go around that and get actual information on your performance and conduct. Yes.
So, do companies actually go on social media to check on the applicants that have before they pick a candidate, right? Do they go on social media to check what they post, what they do on social media?
Well, I cannot speak for the majority of companies, but from my experience, depending on the position that you are taking up, I think your social media life does have a role to play as far as your professional life is concerned. I think companies, I would like to find out, what you stand for, what you believe in.
Yeah.
But as far as employment is concerned, if I'm recruiting you, you're a prospective candidate. Social media reference for me would not play a major role, because I'm interested in generally your work experience. I'm interested in your academic credentials. That should speak louder than your activity on social media. But again, it's dependent on the role. Certain positions, I think we would like to know what is your political view. Are you a political individual? And then if the entity that I am representing as HR, if we make an assessment and determine that one of the risks for the company would be politically exposed persons, I think it would be paramount for me as HR to do due diligence and establish a political position. Yes.
Here is the $1 million question. How should we respond when we are asked, what's your salary expectation? Is it a question we should respond, or should we throw it back to the panel?
Normally, a lot of candidates never have a straightforward answer. But what it is it's always good to have a position. Salary expectation speaks to you with regards to your value, the value of your work experience, the value of your academic credentials. So it is always good for you to have a position. It's like when you go to a market and then you ask the seller to say, how much is tomato? Immediately they will tell you to say, "Itatu tomato, part." They know the value of that tomato. So why should you as an individual not know the value that you have? Know the value that you put on yourself.
Yeah.
So what you need to do, or my advice would be, pick up information about the role. So information on salary scales would generally be obtained from two sources. You could do a bit of check on the internal employees. If you have a colleague or two, try to ask around to say, of course, they will not give you exact figures, but try to ask what they might think the lowest gets paid and what they might think the highest gets paid. Through that, you could do an average and work with such a figure. What do I mean? If the lowest employee gets paid 3,000 kwacha, and the highest paid employee gets paid 100,000 kwacha, and this is a position in middle management, by virtue of this bit of information that you have, you know that this salary is going to be roughly somewhere around 25. Because if people in senior management are getting as much as 100,000 and the lowest gets 3,000, on average, if you put up your salary scales, I know this is not general information, but I'm just trying to help someone. Yeah. You'd know that a position in middle management would range between 25 to 30,000. Yes. So that's something that you could work with. You could equally work with what we call industrial sector rates. So what it is that there is what you call market salaries, what an average company would pay for a particular position. So if you have colleagues working in other different companies, so you're applying for an accountant role, and then you have a colleague who works for any other company, they're equal an accountant. Ask them to say, but how much do you get paid then? Of course, he's not going to give you the actual figure, but he can give you a rough estimate. And then you can work with that, because that is what if you ask 2 or 3 people and then the pay is somewhat similar, you then have an industrial rate. You have an idea of what the industrial rate is. It is something that you can work with. But of course, do a bit of research about the company, its revenue position, its financial position, and see what you can come up with as an estimation. Yes, and then when you ask that question, give them a straightforward answer. Say, well, I would like to work with 35,000 kwacha. You see, because that is value that you've attached on your work experience. It is also value that you've attached on your credentials. If tomato has value, why should you as a human being not have value? Yes.
When someone is asked if they have any questions at the end of the interview, does it affect the applicants if they say they have no questions?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's always good to have at least one or two questions. I think as a recruiter, it tells me that you have a bit of interest, or you have interest besides the fact that you applied, and it shows me that you went a bit further, and you're inquisitive and you'd like to get to know a bit more about the company. So it is not something that is outrightly wrong. If you don't have a question, that is also fine. If you have a question, it tells me a bit more about yourself. So you could have one or two questions, then go ahead and ask. Yes.
Before we conclude, what is one thing that we change about Zambia?
Well, we could improve on our cleanliness. As Zambians, you see currently, if you look at the news, there's a lot of issues with blocked drainages. You go into our CBD, it's a sorry sight. I personally would appreciate if we took the initiative of cleaning up our city. If we don't clean up our country, no one else will. We need to change our mentality. We need to clean our country. Our CBD is extremely dirty. Drainages are blocked. You can't walk even just a mile without seeing trash. We need to clean our country. Yes.
Any word of advice to the youth or to human resources wannabe or the general public? Your closing remarks.
Yes, it's an amazing career. It's a wonderful career. It's not for the old. It is actually for anybody of any age. If anything, you are done with school, take up human resources management. Do not be misled by people saying it is a career for old people, or there are no jobs. Do not be discouraged. I would encourage men, women, to go for human resources management. You will love it.
There you have it. I hope all your questions have been answered. If you have any other questions that you'd like us to deal with, please don't forget to drop them in the comment section and subscribe to the channel.
Zambia is full of unexplored marvels, talented people, game-changing entrepreneurs, and breathtaking places that most people don't even know about. And that's where you come in. Do you know someone doing something incredible? Or a sport that deserves to be recognized? We want to hear from you.